So, as you're probably aware, a few years ago Lucasfilm distanced itself from the name of Boba Fett's iconic ship, Slave One. On recent merch, and anytime it's mentioned in books, guides, you name it, they name it the class of ship it is, Boba Fett's Fire Spray. But in a similar fashion, did you know they've started doing the same thing with any merch surrounding Return of the Jedi Leia, in particular the bikini iteration? This isn't anything new, but has come to light again because an upcoming rumoured LEGO set of Jabba's sail barge has an updated minifigure of this version of the princess. And instead of using the common name for this iteration of the character as they've been doing for years, which is Captive Leia or Slave Outfit Leia, they went with Leia the Huttslayer. In and of itself, this name does admittedly sound pretty badass. As some fans admitted, this change does seem rather unnecessary. It's what this version of Leia was known as since 1983. It was just the common appellation we called this version of her in the fandom, and no one seemed to have a problem with it. It's not the biggest deal, but it's just unnecessary, as I say. And before her death, the amazing late Carrie Fisher, forever our princess, shared her mixed feelings on the suit she wore in episode 6, but always brought a comedic sophistication to her comments about it. She said while it was a difficult few scenes to shoot, notably due to the discomfort she felt, how she had to sit still for a long period of time, she also spoke about how she grew to accept and embrace that depiction of her iconic character and its place in pop culture history. And not just this, she even loved to see men dressed as this version of Leia at conventions. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, and she even advised Daisy Ridley in preparation for The Force Awakens to, quote, not allow them to slave Leia her. This being said, in a 2015 interview, Fisher was asked about Lucasfilm stopping selling merch of that version of her character, and she responded with this: I think that's stupid. The father who flipped out about it, what am I going to tell my kid about why she's in that outfit? Tell them that a giant slug captured me and forced me to wear that stupid outfit, and then I killed him because I didn't like it, and then I took it off, backstage. Fisher was brilliant, and in context of the fact Leia was captured by Jabba after impersonating Boushh to help free Han and Chewie, she was enslaved by the massive, horrible gangster Jabba the Hutt. But as Carrie Fisher says, it had a good ending, because she got to kill him. It just seems like an unnecessary change to what fans have known her by in that specific iteration, and Carrie seemed to think the same thing too. Those scenes are an iconic part of sci-fi history, and Carrie knew it. The name Leia the Huttslayer comes from the fact after Leia killed Jabba the Hutt, other captives like the Nikto guards saw her as a hero and admired the fact she had the guts to choke Jabba. I think it's pretty badass. The name was earned, but it's just one of the names she was given by a group who saw the event take place. Should it replace Captive Leia, Leia Slave Outfit, or similar names we've come to know? I'll let you decide down below. So moving on, in other Star Wars news, Dave Filoni is doing a lot of press at the moment, and there has been some anger and backlash based on his contributions to The Acolyte, but he is looking ahead to The Mandalorian and Grogu, which he is working on with Jon Favreau, Ahsoka Season 2 of course, we want to know what Baylan is after on Peridea and what's going to happen to Ahsoka and Sabine, don't forget Huyang, not to mention Dave Filoni's own Star Wars movie, which is going to wrap up the first phase of the Mandoverse. But amongst all of this, some comments he made recently is about the possibility of an R-rated Star Wars movie. Should Star Wars go beyond the maturity of things we've seen in the likes of Tony Gilroy's Andor? Should they make movies that kind of breaks the George Lucas idea that these films are made for families, for kids, and take a more serious approach? While Star Wars has attempted to do this on a few occasions, not just with Tony Gilroy's show and, I guess to an extent, Rogue One, but also Book of Boba Fett, before it was turned into a Disney Plus show, was going to be an R-rated movie by James Mangold. The Book of Boba Fett we got was much more tame than what the original movie was going to do, and even though there is some of that in The Mandalorian, but what was going to be explored in Mangold's movie was much more mature in its content, and there is yet to be an R-rated project. Well, this is what Dave Filoni said. While speaking with Josh Horowitz on Happy Sad Confused, he says, quote, "Sure, I don't know. It's interesting. The bottom line is, whatever we do has to be done really well." He says, "I think there's an audience for that. I think also with that audience I want to still be hitting the imagination of the kids out there, so they can grow up and appreciate those things." And he's very much keeping in line with the George Lucas philosophy that you have to give kids hope.
I'll never turn to the dark side.
The mythology of Star Wars relies on it, a tale of good versus evil with very important life lessons. through Luke, through Yoda, through Obi-Wan, and that continues to evolve, in characters like Ahsoka, Din Djarin, you name it. Dave Filoni goes on to say this: "I think Star Wars encompasses all types of styles, and the creatives of these particular stories driving it is kind of the most important thing, and they should do something that's within their comfort zone." And this is where I think a lot of fans are going to disagree. If you're looking at Leslie Headland's show, if you're looking at some of the other creatives put in charge of projects which may have not been as well received as Lucasfilm would have liked, is it more that it should be within their comfort zone, or should it adhere to what George Lucas set up? Because you can definitely have your own style of movie or TV show, but also keeping the fundamental thread, if you pardon the pun given the recent episodes of The Acolyte, of what Star Wars truly is at its core, and some would say it's deviated too much. And then he says this: "Otherwise, just imagine that everyone's going to come and pretend they're George Lucas and they're not." But I think two things can be true at once. You can absolutely have the creative touch of new directors, new creatives, and I look at some of the unfortunate cancelled projects for some of the talent we could have got on Star Wars, while also having boundaries, whether that's lore that you're staying within, not stepping on the toes of previous projects. And I think that's why a project like James Mangold's first prime Jedi movie is going to be very refreshing, because you don't run the risk, if you do deviate, of changing people's perception of the Star Wars they do love. There's a difference between building on the established, beloved Star Wars universe and tearing down the basics, undermining it to subvert expectations. There's a misconception that introducing new concepts, worlds and stories to Star Wars has to sabotage our fundamental understanding of what made it so special in the first place. Especially with a lot of recent creatives and their approach to this galaxy. We've seen this need to undermine the Jedi, the Force, and that has led to inconsistency, fans feeling as though the way they see their favourite stories has been undercut. I just don't see it as a productive approach. Creative freedom can mean bringing your own expressive touch without changing what Star Wars is. I think when Star Wars is mature in cases of Mando Season 1 and Andor Season 1, when well written, when the world building is great, you have Star Wars projects adults resonate with. But as Dave Filoni says, the kids do too. I guess it's about not going too far in those mature themes. But then I've seen some corners of the fanbase say it should go further. But should there be a Star Wars movie that dares to go R-rated? I guess I'll let you decide in the comments down below. In other Star Wars news, Simon Cassianides has teased he's going to appear in The Mandalorian and Grogu. The actor who plays Woves is kind of implying he's going to resurge in the upcoming Jon Favreau adventure. Now that Mandalore is reunited, Woves might play a big role. He teases he's getting fit for some kind of mystery project. Is it The Mandalorian and Grogu? Some fans think yes. In other Star Wars news, my dear friends, the Charmin Obaid-Chinoy sequel to The Rise of Skywalker is coming sometime, probably between 2026 and 27. It might even be pushed back even further because Daisy Ridley has said she's not yet seen a script. Well, this might have changed, because according to productionlist.com, it's going to start filming in London on September the 2nd, 2024, so it could still take one of the 2026 release dates. And while we wait, Daisy Ridley shared a picture of herself at the gym where it looks like The Force Awakens, or it could be the start of The Last Jedi, is playing in the background, and she saw herself on TV. Whether you like Rey or you don't, Daisy Ridley is a very wholesome person, and I do wish her the best. It might not be the movie fans had hoped for, but I give everything a fair shot.